My name is Franco Lombardo. I'm living in Italy, and at the moment I'm working in a small Italian startup. But I've been working in the IT field for so many years, many years, and I've been working with many languages, Java, C, and at the moment I'm working with PHP, which I enjoy really very much. And I'm also a contributor of a PHP library, whose name is LLFund, which is a PHP library to interact with LLMs and vector databases. And during the developing of these open source libraries, I met Wesley, and so it was really nice, and it made this hackathon happen for me. And thank you, Wesley.
My name is Wesley Stessens and I live in Belgium. I've been working as an independent software developer for over 13 years now. In the first few years I mainly worked with C++, but the web gave so much more opportunities for me that for the past 11 years I've been focusing on web development mostly. These days you can typically find me working on Laravel, Vue and WordPress projects. And aside from that, I try to contribute a little bit to various open source projects. Like Franco said, I've also contributed a tiny little bit to the LLFund project he was talking about. That is actually how we know each other. And apart from the web dev stuff, I also tinker a lot with AI. In a professional context, I use LLMs and vector databases to create unique experiences for my customers.
And can you share a brief description of your project?
Yes. These days, we all know that the AI arena is dominated by very large companies with very large budget, a huge amount of money, and so on. And we would like to create a network of people, institutions, small institutions. We are thinking especially to local institutions or niche institutions who want to share their knowledge for the benefit of the community. And we would like those institutions to create a distributed vector databases that can be used for RAG processing using LLM. So that's the main idea. Wesley.
Yeah, it's like Franco says, we want to try and create a decentralized network where anyone can join with specific domain knowledge. For example, if you are a research lab at a university that specializes in microplastics research, which is actually what my wife researches, then you could join this network to strengthen its knowledge about microplastics. It is also difficult to create huge AI models that are pre-trained on everything. So we believe that it might make sense to work with smaller, possibly open source AI models and enhance them with domain-specific expertise through retrieval augmented generation algorithms and vector databases. And to make this scale and to make this really useful, we want to try and see if we can develop an open peer-to-peer network with this idea in mind.
And what problem does your project aim to solve?
We have seen that the search engines have contributed to share information between people, between small companies, between small institutions and everyday people. And they had the benefits to connect all those people, all those information, even if you are a small developer, or if you are a private person that want to share something interesting to the wide audience. It is possible to share your data using search engines, because the search engine index your data, and this data became available to everyone in the internet. We would like to bring this paradigm into the generative AI arena. I mean, we would like to let people, individuals or small institutions to share their data, their knowledge to the wide audience in order to use this data for some generative AI processing.
Yeah, currently most LLMs like ChatGPT or Gemini rely heavily on a centralized architecture. You can add your own vector database on top of that, but that is not that scalable. Franco explains it really well by comparing it to a search engine. Everyone can create a website with their own content and be found that way on Google. Now imagine that instead of a website, you create a node in our network that contains a vector database with whatever information you want to share with the network. And then someone else at the other end of the world is also connected to this peer-to-peer network. And he has a very specific niche question, for example, about those microplastics. And your database contains the answer to his question. Then the peer-to-peer system should route the query to your database, fetch any matching contextual documents, and use those documents as additional context for whatever LLM you choose to work with. So basically, the more knowledge is added into the network by various parties, the better it will also be able to respond to any kind of query.
What are the goals and scope of your project?
Yes, this project will be a huge one, but at the moment we have seen that we can develop two parts. The first one is the protocol to connect the peer-to-peer nodes between them. So it's more an infrastructure part. We would like to develop a protocol for sharing these distributed vectors, distributed information embedded in vectors. And the second part will be the usage of these vectors. So we would like to get this data and put this data into some libraries. If you like PHP, we would use LLFant. If you prefer Python, we can use LangChain or HighStack, something like this. So two main parts of our project.
Yeah, part one would indeed be the development of a peer-to-peer system that allows nodes to join or leave dynamically while maintaining or trying to maintain efficient communication. We also have to implement a routing algorithm that forwards the queries to the most relevant specialized nodes based on the domain expertise. And then for the second part, we want to make it possible in an easy way for developers and maybe even end users to create a node with an RAG database. We are not entirely sure yet how we want to approach this. On one hand, it would be a big advantage if anyone can easily set up an RAG database without any programming knowledge. But on the other hand, we want to offer a maximum amount of flexibility for developers to work with whatever tools they want. So our idea right now is to define an open protocol and then create a standard RAG node on top of that anyone can just run and add the documents into if they download the node and run it on their own computer or server. But aside from the standard RAG node that we could work on during the hackathon, we think that we also want to give developers the freedom to create a customized node that does the RAG processing in a completely different way, if that would make more sense for their specific data.
And what attendee skill set would be most applicable to your project?
Well, as we said, we see two main parts in this project. So the first one is related to the peer-to-peer protocol to connect the nodes. And for this part, maybe someone who already had developed a peer-to-peer network or is interested in developing a peer-to-peer network is really appreciated. Maybe this part will use lib P2P, which is a Golang library for creating peer-to-peer networks. And for the second one, someone who is interested in LLMs and vector databases and can use libraries such as LLFant or Llama Index or iStack for using the data transmitted on the peer-to-peer network. Obviously, we would like to have anyone who has a good vision in creating, developing, and making great open source projects.
If anyone has any experience with peer-to-peer technology, like lib-P2P, like Franco said, that would be very helpful, because that's a bit of a weak spot here. But also developers with experience in distributed systems, federated learning, scalable backend systems, RAG systems are all very welcome. But even if you are not experienced in those fields, but you have some development experience and you want to learn, you're also welcome. The standard RAG node that we might create during the hackathon could be based on a standard library like LLFant, which is not that hard to use. We can also use data scientists to help us in designing the protocol and to optimize the query routing. Domain experts are also welcome because they can help us to improve the RAG algorithms itself by testing and giving feedback. But basically, anyone that thinks this is an interesting project can join us, if you ask me.
And how do you envision the impact on the open web and society in general?
Well, we would like to create a tool to share information. And as you know, sharing information is the basis for an open society. The first thing to create an open society is to have a common sharing of knowledge, of good knowledge. So if we lower the barrier to get into the distribution of knowledge, I think it will be a good idea for an open society.
Yeah, we want to democratize knowledge sharing, basically, and reduce the reliance on centralized knowledge repositories to actually empower anyone to contribute. Basically, it's like Franco said before, we want to bring the paradigm of search engines where anyone can contribute anything and anyone can find an answer to anything into the world of generative AI. And we want to do all of this in a decentralized way, mitigating risks associated with single points of failure in centralized models. And we also want to enable participants to retain control over their knowledge contributions without needing to rely on third-party gatekeepers, because it just runs from their own server or whatever in a peer-to-peer manner.
And finally, my favorite question, which award, except for the overall winner, would you like to win with your team?
Well, one of the main reasons to get involved in this hackathon is that we would like to meet new people. We would like to work with new people, different people. Winning the Dream Team Award for team collaboration, I think it will be fantastic for us.
Well, there are a lot of interesting awards to win, but we are here to hack together and to have fun while doing so. That is why I 100% agree with Franco that we would like to win the Dream Team Award. Because winning that would mean that we were able to work together well, and hopefully that everyone had fun as well.
Well, Wesley and Franco, thank you both for your time and sharing about your project, and I look forward to meeting you both in person at the hackathon.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Christian.